I noticed something really strange about this one scene in Dragon Ball Super episode 114. Let's see if you notice it too. At the time, I knew this scene was trying to tell us something, but I couldn't quite figure out what that something was, so I just said forget it. But then, it slapped me in the face one day. And if you've been keeping up with the spoilers for Dragon Ball Super episode 122, then you'll be as blown away by this as I was when I figured it out. You're probably wondering how that scene was strange at all. Well, it's because it just felt awkward. They showed us two characters that have nothing to do with each other. I mean, there's really no reason to show Frieza and Dyspo together. Unless, of course, they were about to have a fight. And that's the bigger picture here. The spoilers for Dragon Ball Super episode 122 revealed a different fight other than just Vegeta versus Jiren. And with that confirmation, I slowly started to realize what the meaning behind that strange scene was. What's important to remember from that scene is what Dyspo said. He was about to get hit by Frieza's ki beams, and he instantly gave up. Dyspo said he couldn't handle Frieza. If they were already showing you some kind of conflict between these two characters, a full 8 episodes before they ever even talk to each other, then that can mean only one thing. They were trying to give something away. But that's not exactly what I meant earlier by "you'll be blown away by this." This scene is just part of an even bigger problem. You see, having one scene is great and all, but it doesn't really prove anything. You can't really say that they were trying to give something away with a tiny clip, because if they really were trying to tell you a secret, then they would have hinted towards it more than once. And that's where my mission started. I wanted to find other moments for the anifam that gave away the same secret. What I found for the best anime family on YouTube were 2 other scenes, and when we break down the meanings behind what was going on during those scenes, then you'll see the proof that they really were showing you a secret to something big that's coming soon. But not only that, by breaking down these scenes, it helped me realize the likely result of something that will happen in Dragon Ball Super episode 122, which I'll tell you about later. The first scene that I found for the anifam was definitely hiding the secret super hard. So what you just saw was the police guy from Universe 3 going after Frieza, who obviously wasn't very interested in starting a fight with this weakling. But here's what was important about this fighter when it comes to the upcoming episode. As I just stated, he called himself some type of policeman. Basically, he's a protector of the innocent in his universe. Well, doesn't that sound strangely familiar to another group in the Tournament of Power? He tells Frieza that he fights in the name of justice. Wow, just like the Pride Troopers, but it only gets better. Remember, I said this example had the secret very well hidden. The policeman decides to show Frieza his full strength. He powers up and transforms. The letter on his chest turns to an S, and that was actually related to Frieza's next opponent in Dragon Ball Super episode 122. The excited man started to move his legs extra fast and explained that the mode his robot suit was in had increased his speed by 300 times. That S stands for speed. So you're telling me this wasn't just to fill up some time in the episode? They actually had a reason behind having some random fighter challenge Frieza just to show absolutely no fighting happened between them at all? That's exactly what I'm telling you. They introduced this fighter because he's a man who fights for justice and can increase his speed to superhuman levels, an exact copy of how you would describe Dyspo. This was a clear example of the secret that they were trying to give away. The second scene that I found for the anifam was right before this epic scene happened. The chills that moment gave all of us probably made you forget the creepy moments that led up to it. Before that moment happened, we still didn't know much about Jiren's powers. He was keeping them hidden by letting his teammates constantly protect him from danger. And that's exactly what happened when Majikaio tried to attack Jiren. Dyspo had jumped in to take care of this opponent himself, but he got cocky when he made a hole in Majikaio. And this will be an important detail when we talk about the result of something that will happen in Dragon Ball Super episode 122. Not taking the time to analyze how his opponent's body worked, Dyspo found himself captured. But here's where things got creepy, and strangely familiar to our favorite villain. This scene was so dark, especially for Dragon Ball, but once again, they had a reason for doing this, and it turned out that reason was to once again give away something about the upcoming episode. Who else in the Tournament of Power would have dared to hurt another fighter in a way like that? The answer is beyond obvious. You can say Frost might have fit into that category, but let's get real. All of you know Frieza is one of the most evil characters Dragon Ball has ever had. He might even be the worst of the worst, but the only way the connection between him and Majikaio would be made clear is if they had similar scenes in Dragon Ball Super showing Frieza's true evil nature. There are two scenes that really bring out these two sick fighters' similarities. The first was just before the Tournament of Power started. After Frieza had successfully gotten himself out of the God of Destruction energy, he tricked Goku into thinking they really were allies, at least for the moment. The way that he did this was by having a normal conversation with Goku as they tried to figure out who had sent these fighters to target them. This made Goku feel like they were on the same page about things, and this made him let his guard down. This was exactly the same as how Majikaio captured Dyspo. He had tricked him into thinking he could let his guard down. He cried out as if he was scared, but then his cries turned to a smile as his body repaired itself, and that's how he trapped Dyspo. They were showing us the same exact behavior between Frieza and Majikaio so that we could have a clear example of the secret they wanted to give away. But as I said earlier, one scene showing a similarity isn't enough to actually prove something, and that's where Frost comes into play. Both Frieza and Frost saw each other as someone to use, someone to trick into helping them and then getting rid of them when the time was right. But the huge difference between these two evil men was their fighting experience. Frieza had not only reached his golden form. In his time in the underworld, he had trained his mind to learn how to control the amount of energy that form wasted. He had already explained to Goku that this golden Frieza form no longer took all his stamina like it had when he first used it against Goku. And unlike Frieza, Frost hadn't even reached anything like a golden form. That meant that Frost wanted to use Frieza to learn from. We saw the difference in their powers for ourselves when Frost easily started to lose against Vegeta after he had gone after the weakened Master Roshi. He was lucky and made it out without being eliminated, but that's when his false ally came into the picture, and when the pattern we saw with Majikaio and Dyspo came back. Frieza made Frost feel comfortable. He was giving Frost exactly what he wanted, knowledge on how to get stronger. It seemed innocent, like a little training lesson, as Frieza asked Frost to show him the different forms he had already achieved. And then, completely out of nowhere, Frost learned he had been tricked. And with no way back up, Frost was trapped. This same pattern of tricking and trapping their opponents made Majikaio's character feel extremely similar to Frieza's dark nature. It was almost like Dyspo was fighting a Frieza wannabe. It was another example of the secret they had been trying to give away. But do you remember what I said was an important detail linking to the result of something coming in Dragon Ball Super episode 122? It also links to the pattern that Majikaio and Frieza share. It was the moment Dyspo had gotten cocky. Well, this instantly made me think of the very first time we had ever seen Dyspo fight, and I realized that there was a pattern in each one of Dyspo's battles. The first time they showed the Pride Troopers actually in action, there was a monster overtaking a city in Universe 11. Dyspo was fighting the creature one-on-one, proving the power that his incredible speed gave to him, but he got cocky, and then he was trapped. It was the same exact thing that had happened when he tried to take down Majikaio in Jiren's place. You're probably thinking that easily could have been some kind of coincidence. At that time in Dragon Ball Super, I might have agreed with you, but then this happened. Dyspo decided to fight against Hit, the master of time. From what we had seen from Hit up to that point in the series, it seemed like Hit was going to be the obvious winner. But this was the episode that Dyspo proved to you that he wasn't just some overconfident fighter who couldn't think before acting. He actually did have a very impressive ability. His speed instantly outsmarted Hit's time skip. That is until Toppo made the statement that Hit was adapting to Dyspo's speed. From Dyspo's point of view, it definitely seemed like he had the upper hand. He had pushed Hit to the very edge of the stage. Who wouldn't feel entitled to brag a little? But then Toppo's eyes widened as he yelled out, "This was a trap." And there it was again, the pattern from both of Dyspo's other fights, as well as the connection between Frieza and Majikaio. Dyspo is gullible. He gets cocky, stops thinking, and next thing you know, he's trapped. And nothing changed here. Hit had planned on getting pushed to the edge, so when Dyspo made his final push, As he fell off the tournament stage, Dyspo learned that Hit was able to use time skip after all. He had been tricked. Of course, he ended up getting saved by a teammate, but 3 times was enough to prove that there really was a pattern. Just like the 3 scenes that they gave to us, trying to give away a secret about something coming. All 3 of the scenes that I showed you somehow all managed to connect Dyspo and Frieza. They were foreshadowing the second fight that the spoilers for Dragon Ball Super episode 122 have now confirmed. Frieza versus Dyspo. But what about this pattern of tricking and trapping? How is it important to the end result of the upcoming fight? Well, if Dyspo is gullible and always getting tricked into some terrible trap, and Frieza is the kind of villain who loves to trick his opponent and then trap them, it's clear as day that Frieza will certainly find a way to win this fight. But what about the other Universe 7 team members? Will they be able to win their fights too? In Dragon Ball Super episode 121, Android 17 was almost kicked, but then he got a second chance, which only made sense considering the amount of power he's gained since the Dragon Ball Z days. But just how much longer will he last? There's something I realized about his character that will give you that answer.